Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the stream. I'm Alice the Medic. With me is Fresh, and we are close to the end. We're actually one game away from all of it being done, but this game is definitely the most important, pretty much, that we've had all day. It will determine so much here for Group D and for the playoffs and careers, livelihoods for a lot of players. Sit in the way where somebody's going to be, off by the end of it. That's not the case, though.
Yeah.
In video games, that is.
We've got our 47th and 48th best of one over 3 days. And I quote that because that is a lot of best of ones. That's a lot of season.
Oh, yes.
We've got SSG against DWG KIA, which is on this stream. And we have Empire against Furia on Rainbow Six Bravo. And I encourage you to watch both streams simultaneously.
Yes.
Because these two games will decide who goes into playoffs out of DWG KIA and Team Empire.
Simple as that. And just also a couple of things to keep in mind. First up, 48 games that we have in total in the groups. I'm asking you, chat. Type it in here or tweet it at us, #6major, and tell us, because we can actually put your tweets up on the screen during the matches if you use our #6major, scrolling down below right here in the ticker. How many of these games, or the 48, have you watched so far over the past 3 days? I know a lot of you have told me that you've taken the whole week off so you could actually watch the entire major, so kudos for you to doing that. So hey, let us know. But one more specialty that we have to talk about, I think it was already mentioned on the B stream. We have a draw at the end of this match. We do the debrief for our match here between Spacestation and DWG KIA.
Yep.
And then we're going to pull out exactly which teams will be facing off against who else within the playoffs. So 8 teams in total that make it through it. That'll be on the stream here. It'll be Fresh and I that have the honor to do this.
So if your favorite team get a really easy draw,
you can usually blame me.
Or a hard draw, then you can blame me and me last year.
Yes. Last time I did these draws, it was me and Tero in Katowice, and we ended up drawing Pentasports versus EG at Season 7 finals. So yes, not gonna lie, I think it left a bit of sour taste in people's mouths. But that said, it's kind of our preface here before we go into our game. Let's talk about our rosters. SSG is up first, who are actually sitting pretty. They can play gatekeepers to DWG KIA and to their opponent's Team Empire. Here at first place in the group, even if they lose this game, they're still confirmed to go into the playoffs.
Yeah, and they've been the only shining light of the whole North American region. Like, that is a whole region that now needs to rally up, get behind this team. They've played very well. They beat Empire twice. They ran it back on Villa. And SSG looking very comfortable. They've got a 7-map pool. Of course, they have maps they don't like in that pool, but they will play all 7 maps. They trust each other. They're staying calm, cool, collected. They're knowing how to pick up rounds, even when they're struggling. They're knowing how to pick up the rounds and then just grind out these wins.
And on the other side, it's their opponents, DWG KIA from South Korea and APAC North, the APAC representative here. We already have Sandbox, also a Korean team that has made it through the playoffs. DWG KIA look to be the second APAC team, the second Korean team, and for the first time ever, 2 Korean teams making it out of the groups, and for the first time since Six Invitational 2019, that 2 APAC teams make it out of groups of a major event. That back in the day, that was Norengo and Fnatic that progressed, and Norengo had their semi-final run back in those days. DWG KIA, they just need any point.
Any point.
This. Even if they lose in overtime, that's okay. All that needs to happen for Empire to be able to get that spot off of DWG KIA is for DWG to lose in regulation, which is in the initial rounds that we have. So the initial 12 rounds that we got. And in that case, Team Empire, they just need to win their game against Furia, get to 3 points, and the division between them and DWG is something like 1 or 2 rounds in total in the separation, and that will boost Empire just above.
Yeah, it's 1 round in total. So Empire beat DWG KIA beat Empire 7-3. Empire managed to beat out DWG KIA 7-2. So the head-to-head is 1 round. That's what it will come down to. If we were even, we would be talking about tiebreakers, but it isn't, so we're not. And we will see DWG KIA be victims of their own map pool again, as we will go to Clubhouse, and they're taking the OG Clubhouse team to Clubhouse once again. It's worth noting they did play them there last time, so they've run it back again. Teams keep running it back against SSG and getting burned. We saw Empire do it. Clubhouse. It's a victim of the limited map pool that Damwon Kia have, and it's pretty much the only map they could have gone to in this scenario.
Yep, they played it yesterday, as you see, and it was Clubhouse 8-7 victory for Damwon Kia. It could have gone either way, but what will happen here? If this same situation
was to
ran back, that's 2 points, Damwon Kia out. 1 point, losing in overtime, no problem. Damwon Kia are through. But if they lose in regulation, it is all done and the Koreans go home. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're as excited as we are. Damwon Kia versus Space Station. It's Clubhouse, it's Hanover. Have fun.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to dive deep into this final matchup here on the Alpha stream. And if you've got a second monitor, make sure you open the Bravo stream as well. These games are equally as important, as this is the only group remaining with playoff contentions still undecided here. Damwon Gaming Kia looking for just a single point out of this matchup to secure their position. Empire over on the other stream must win in regulation to even have a chance. So let us see how it will go. I'll be joined by no one else other than Fluke for this final cast of the tournament for me. I'm so excited to get into it. I can't even complete my sentences.
See, this is something that I've known and noticed over this. You've been introduced to the world of Damwon Kia, haven't you?
Absolutely the case.
Oh, they are fun, and that is the main drive here, is when everything is on the cards, when the pressure is there, sure. In league play in Korean region and obviously inside APAC North, they sometimes have these little damp moments, things don't quite connect, but over the course of this, it's just so fun, and everybody is keeping their keen eyes on the highlight player of Yas.
Let's get into it and see how Yas will be able to perform. Some other highlights on the team as well, such as Rin and Coded as well, having himself a good game or two with a little bit more hit or miss. We're well into the bans though, and it's gone to Clubhouse. Damwon Gaming Kia choosing to challenge SSG on somewhat home territory. Not as strong of a map for them as it used to be, but definitely still one where we can find quite a bit of success for the North American mainstays. The only hope remaining in the tournament for that region. Thatcher and Habana are going to be your two operators knocked out from the attacking side. Pretty straightforward there, no surprises. We've seen very similar ban pools on the Clubhouses played previously. Cade also will not be a surprise, as it's going to be a common response to those two bans.
Now, obviously, the last time we saw these two teams met, it was all the way. It was on Clubhouse, and it was a heck of a fight. The game was intense. SSG was pushed and pressured, but SSG didn't often get off to the smartest start. They sort of stumbled, which people didn't expect. And to be fair, nowhere near as bad as a lot of other people. We're talking about a team that has qualified. They are the only NA team that has qualified. They have some gumph. They have some chutzpah. They have some momentum. But what they now have is a rematch against a team that took them the distance.
And we're going to see once again if Damwon Gaming Kia can look for that potential revenge here, if they can come out on top of this one. A rematch against SSG, though, where SSG has been excelling on all of those maps that have gone back to the original match between the two teams there. So we'll see if they can come out on top once again here. And they'll very much want to as well, if they want to allow Empire through into those playoff positions for Damwon Kia. They are fighting for survival here, as we can see. A loss for them potentially pushes them into third place if Empire once again comes out on top of their game, which is also live. Going to be reminding you of it quite a bit, folks, so get used to it over on twitch.tv/Rainbow6Bravo or /Rainbow6Bravo on your platform of choice. Make sure to tune into that game, as it's just as important as this one.
One of the things that's also worth looking into is, although we've harped on and talked a lot about how this entire tournament has often led itself very well into attackers. This showdown before was actually one of the only games to heavily be weighted into the favor of defense. It was about 5-1 either time and either half in terms of getting it locked down and keeping your opponents away from you. A bit of a split with the usual statistics that we'd often seen. It opened on the same halves as well, with DWG KIA leading on their defenses, and again, as I said, opening it up with the 5-1. If they can try and match that, well, all it guarantees is that we're still on the same pace to a max OT. So it's down to see if SSG can step up and maybe put a little bit more pressure on this opening half.
DWG Gaming KIA with a lot of players out in the open here for the first few seconds of the round, as SSG are just going to be moving in to clear things out themselves. We do have those extended positions from Rin, and a few more players, I believe, playing around with main stairs positioning as well to try and see if they can catch any of the members of SSG unawares as they go for their initial clears. We also have this extended dirt tunnel setup that's going to come out as well from their smoke being played by Coded that they'll have to pay attention to.
Hot and Cold, who hasn't quite been as hot as he was inside NAL, looked like he was flirting with the idea of pushing down the main stairs and seeing if he could find the fight at the bottom of it, but no, just drops a bit of crowd control. That air jab is going to make sure no one can go for a quick swing back round, and again, it's still this weighing and weighing up game, but look at the timer. Only a minute has passed, and SSG is already trying to put pressure and get a bit of a mantle of control over the entirety of those staircases. They want to make sure DWG KIA doesn't have the confidence to go for the big roam swing plays that they often do, and here, as we start to hear some hatches pop open, this is pacey from SSG.
Absolutely the case. The Valkyrie camera is being positioned down below, all allowing for DWG KIA to bleed out some of this drone count from SSG, but they still have plenty to burn out here, with 6 remaining at the halfway point in the round, so pretty much on pace for what you'd expect here. DWG KIA now just sitting back in sight as they pull back all aggressive positioning into the actual site now, and are simply waiting for SSG to make that transition. That transition, however, is oftentimes the most difficult part of the round for attackers here, as they'll lose quite a few on the way down, and then they still have to push into the site from there, possibly opening up one of the church walls or another avenue to work their way forward. We're going to see the beginning of that descent made now as Fultz begins the push in through blue.
Makes the difference and looks towards the bullet holes, but the canister's going to push him back, and an air jab pops off. Does not get caught, though. Locked off by the hard structure of the utility box. He's able to move back behind the ADS and make sure he doesn't quite get caught by whatever just clicked it back into life. Yas has the cross cover all the way down to the bottom of the oil pit to make sure if the Americans try to take it over, there will be some resistance from those guns that are angled back towards it. Hot and Cold is the man who picked up the mantle, and all he sees right now is a smoke that blurs the vision towards the back line of 3 boxes that are filled and lidded with Korean gunners waiting for a sliver and a chance to find anything. But this is that tough break you talked about. At one point, you just have to try and drive yourself into this fight, and DWG KIA, they're still set up quite pretty. They're waiting with the stretch underneath as Bosco takes the fight at the top, and Hot and Cold and Fultz want to take it at the bottom. It's a 3-2-1 drop, but Rin opens it up. Skies, though, head down, stick it, 7 seconds. He's got halfway, and the pings are coming through, but the cover is there from SSG. Bosco gets it, and the diffuser is down. A double from Rin, and Skies is on the floor. It's suddenly a 4 versus 2 post plant, but the verticality is still in their favor. The diffuser going down was the most important part, and now this rotation has to come back up. There's the double bait on the air jab. They've played it off, but there's both players. There's a very important take and a revenge kill. Bosco's left. Bosco gets it. They're going to see if they can stick it. Is he aware? They pull off. 20 seconds, they have all the time in the world, and Woogie Man is looking to see if he can get any sort of angle on this. It's dropped. Bosco gets that player. It's a 1 versus 1. 11 seconds, he goes for the pickup. He has to stick it, has to get the cover. Bosco locks it out, and SSG somehow keep it in their favor.
In a 2v4 post plant with virtually no real estate near the counter defuse position as well. Beautifully done from SSG as they steal away the first round right out of DWK's hands here, as they had everything built up in those final seconds, but were too distracted by the hatch drop. You could see Coded turning around, realizing the push was still coming down dirt, but wasn't able to react in time to the push itself, so gets knocked out. That's suddenly 2 angles where SSG has control alongside of their plant, and it continues to downfall from that point forward. Beautifully done by our attackers as they take the opening round.
Very important moments there, and again, it boiled down to that verticality. They had that control, and they had a confidence. It was a split second between that diffuser being locked in and Skies being knocked out of the round, and it could only be a moment of what else could we have done? Off the board, build from it, DWG KIA. You know how important a singular point is, and already SSG have matched their attack performance against your previous time here on Club.
So time to see now what type of resistance we'll see out of Damwon Kia on the follow-up rounds, as they're going to immediately move to a new site there. Had to play that setup incredibly passively and still could not hold on despite the good presence they had going into the dying seconds of the round. So instead, it's going to be an upstairs hold coming in next for them. A very similar flare in terms of the upper is being brought to the table here. Lots of utility mitigation split between both Jaeger and Wamai. They'll bring the Mute to temporarily block off access to the walls, although again with the change that's been made to Mute, that's not going to be a very long block whatsoever, especially since we have the exothermics being brought by Skies. And away from that, the usual remaining kit of defensive utility to try and hold things off and delay the execute from SSG.
One of the things about that hold was Damwon Kia, as I said, the space was controlled very quickly. SSG was so sharp in making sure that, okay, this staircase and this staircase are locked. Now let's go towards the hatches. They limited a rotation play. They made sure that what they pulled out of Damwon Kia was exactly that, their freedom of movement, their freedom to find places. They were locked in and it was close, but it's a very important moment that could have very much dictated how they felt going into it. Here, Damwon Kia have made sure they had a little bit of a stretch at first, but again, the pace in getting this wall open, it is wasting no time from Space Station. The drone's already busy on the gym side.
So opening up that balcony, that'll be step 1 accomplished for SSG. Steps 2 and 3 still a long while away, though, as they'll want to be clearing out either garage or construction to be able to open up a cleaner path to the site and hopefully more angles to work with here when they move in for their execute. We'll see the construction wall get breached open with the Selmas there, giving more options over to SSG as they continue to take more control on the construction side of things. Foltz as well, chucking in some of these lifeline charges to open up the soft wall between Cash and CCTV, again, fulfilling that same purpose that I was talking about before of SSG trying to build up more and more angles and gain more and more intel before they're eventually forced into their execute into the dying seconds of the round. For instance, the push that comes out there from the Wamai. They know Yas will be playing near that doorway now, and that'll be actionable intel over the next 30 seconds or so as they begin to break down the walls.
Yas is just trying to keep a mantle of pressure inside construction. He's making sure that any of those drones, they're met with at least a face that's saying, no, 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 this isn't territory you can take like the rest of this. That's going to force Bosco to start to open a bit of width here as they get those Selmas popped. Gives Rampy a bit of an angle, a bit of an entrance, and a bit of chaos he can try and create if he wants to go a bit bolder with anything like those grenades in his pocket. Here, though, Foltz is the opener. Finds the player right on the top on the backside of Garage and opens up a huge swathe of land very quickly. All it took was an angle and an idea, and suddenly Damwon Kia's got a massive glaring hole on the backside of their site.
Damwon Kia still looking to hold on here, but as you said, a massive hole opened up there with the elimination of Rin here and the utility that's been utilized by SSG. Bosco still waiting for an opener here to actually get him into the window, and quite a few members of the team seem to be waiting for that. Foltz, though, lurking right in, walking right into the site. No one's even noticed him as of this point here, and he's going to find that Cash is open for the taking. They'll hop in the window as they know security's just as clean. Where's Damwon Gaming? There they are. Now Katsang will also rotate in from Cat as Coded and Woogieman pick up 2 additional kills, leaving it all on Foltz and Bosco here now, locked out of the site with only about 15 seconds left to play this one out. Yas shuts down on Foltz, and Bosco is all that remains. Nearly clipped off right there by Coded and returns some of the fire onto him, but time is getting too low, and finally Coded seals the deal as the response comes in and we are tied in the second round.
I have curiosities. I have questions. I do not know how Foltz was able to crouch walk so far past. Okay, they had an idea and they sprayed some fire towards him, but it was then the C4 that locked that round out for them. It was almost the second time that SSG looked towards a part of the site and said, well, let's just take it and see what happens. Lead in with the confidence of a team that has qualified, and they almost found success from it. It got scrappy. You still had Foltz, but he was now a little bit more isolated, and then suddenly a lot more isolated. It's a risky game, but Damwon Kia have all the pressure. SSG do not. It is entirely going to reflect in how those plays come together, and those little mistakes are, well, just smooth opportunities for SSG.
That was actually some really cool stuff to see from Damwon Kia, because we saw the top-down POV on the site. Pretty much zero presence from Damwon Kia inside of really either site in those dying seconds of the round, but they're still able to fend it off. SSG giving a bit of a false sense of security and their own capability to move on and attempt to plant, and as a result of that, they're drawn into the trap, which DWG KIA is able to spring for themselves here and take control of their opening round. Obviously, we'll lock that site away, so can't go back to that one just yet. We'll have to wait until round number 5 to try that one again. But what they can do is move over here to their next defense, which is going to be inside of the gym and bedroom. Basement as well is still a little bit too risky for them. They'll wait until the next round to try that.
SSG, you're playing kind of cool and calm, and you know, it's something that we've put as an asterisk in all of the games, but you're bringing yourself into this. DWG KIA's worst enemies right now are potentially themselves. There's a bit of a caution being played in a team that was otherwise so carefree, and to be fair and unfortunate in saying that that caution was what often made them struggle inside league play. When they got inside their own heads, when things weren't connecting, was when things started to fall apart. They need to keep themselves active in the fight here. I think they need to keep driving and pulling a bit more pressure into it. They have the stretch of the Banshees, they have the call on the information. Yas is now still out there roaming, trying to find some freedom and trying to find some aggression. But Rampy is actually the first that almost meets it.
Rampy having a little bit of trouble getting the swing to hit there. That LAN hammer coming in hard for Rampy, as there's always a little bit of an adjustment period for players moving on to the LAN client where they get used to the way that some of the mechanics work, although the NA players should have the least amount of trouble with that, given they play on the LAN client all the time for the NGL. Either way, DWG here still looking to maintain pressure, but Katsang taking that little bit of heat is going to force them to play a bit more passively here for these next few moments as Skies begins the work of clearing out parts of the site there, manages to get the Jacuzzi balcony open, and that's going to be a big hole for SSG to try and use here to put pressure on the site in the next minute or so.
Rin is curious about the opener that is otherwise over CC Balk, but without the current wall that's about to be cut now being rotatable, they weren't under the intense pressure to move. At some point, you assume that will start to fall towards them, as with logistics hatch open, with that window on the connector gone, it's only a matter of time before they decide to either try and catch them off and force them to hit the rotate and construction, where there's two different angles that will be waiting for them, or just try and put the pressure on them themselves. Try and force Rin into a mistake. The first drone drops, but the creep of Faults is able to free another two, and Rin goes for a rotation, takes one, reveals the game, the spray comes through, and this is so far good time wasting. A bit of a stretch of DWG KIA is coming back over to try and offer an arm and a leg and a little bit of support, but how much of this will break down onto this first Firewhite? Another drone, another chance, and the fight finally goes away from him.
Faults able to win the duel there on positioning, dancing around Rin and eventually finding the target necessary to take him out. That's the opening kill of the round, just being found now at around the 1 minute mark as well. Plenty more work to be done here by SSG as they begin to encroach on DWG Gaming's territory, getting closer and closer towards it. Faults with the second one here, and a nice nade to knock out Woogieman as well. The pressure is boiling in, and Katsang so far, the only one from DWG KIA that's able to respond to it. He'll fall back, create a punch hole to play off of, not necessarily going to use it though. Coded also put into a tough spot here as finally another one-to-one exchange comes out. Leaves it all on Coded now in the 1v3 clutch, and oh, what a shot to save his own life here against Houghton, but a lot more work to be done. He might just do it though as he shuts down Faults, and now it's him versus Bosco. Bosco has the intel he needs, but now so does Coded. He knows where he'll be pushing from. He knows how he needs to approach this. The case is down on the ground. He has full overwatch on it, but Coded messes up, reveals his legs as he goes prone, and that will give the round to SSG.
Little mistakes, and that is one of them. The pressure was hotter than it ever could be. The 1 versus 1 clutch, low health, but an SAS shotgun and a close quarters engagement like that, it's choose a lane and stick it. And unfortunately, that little moment, that little voice in the back of his head that said, is there a better option? Do I take it? No, is the answer that SSG responded with. Dropped him by the reveal of the legs. A frustrating way for it to go, but it's blow for blow, back and forth, 2-1. SSG find their second, and we head back down to Church and Arsenal room.
As we'll see how that basement defense will go. Once again, DWG Gaming KIA is not going to try and mess around with the repeat on the site. Want to make sure we're updating you guys on what's going on our alternative stream as well. That also has massive implications into the playoffs. You can actually see it reflected currently in our live rankings. As spoiler alert, make sure you mute the stream if you don't want to know the results just yet, but we're going to give them to you at the end of the game anyway. Empire currently leading 3-0 over Furia.
One of my favorite quotes out of any of this so far was by Joystick, where he said, Russian teams only show up when elimination is on the line. It is on the line right now more than anything, and not just for them winning, but also every single Empire team is also currently waving a little astronaut flag and cheering for SSG, because DWG KIA, again, don't even need to win this game, but they need 6 rounds to make it to OT. A single point guarantees them that final playoffs place, gets them the head-to-head on the equal points, regardless of the 3 that Team Empire might take. Anything less than OT, and DWG KIA will be, well, probably a bit concerned with that 3-0.
Also important to note here, DWG KIA is still playing for SI contention as well, and I believe getting them to the playoffs will push them very close, if not in range of the top 16, knocking some other teams out of it. Katsang getting aggressive at the beginning of this round, though, finds the impact first as he knocks out Hot and Cold, who again is struggling in this game with an 0-4 scoreline so far here. Also loses all of the Nomad utility. I don't think a single air jab had been deployed as of that point.
It's one of the things about SSG is whenever you're doing your review, whenever you're coming into this tournament, a lot of us who haven't had the pleasure of being able to watch him every single play day go, look at what he's putting up. These are numbers I'm excited to see. And for me, throughout this whole tournament, and for him, he hasn't quite been able to hit a mark. Luckily, it's a very good team, SSG, and it's fielded its way towards the top. And you know there's still a fair few days left of this tournament for him to really demonstrate just why he is that reigning top dog in a very good region in terms of firefight and tactics. But for now, this game so far, it isn't quite the case. SSG, they're still weighing up their options of approach here and still finding out where they think they might be able to spot a weakness. And to be fair, that was their drive previously. Limited the movement, which they cannot do without those air jabs.
SSG going to begin to work on top-down clearance, specifically around the kitchen area. And Katsang potentially sees an opportunity here. More likely just moving out to take out that drone that was positioned on the main stairs a couple of seconds ago. And I believe that is all that pressure will be leveraged out towards 4. Very quickly, you can see immediately Katsang falls back and will fall back into the actual site here. As we are seeing again, the angles beginning to be opened up fairly quickly around the Moto hatch, as well as other areas as well that need to be cleared up by SSG before they can even consider going down. For SSG, though, there's not a lot of excess time to make all of this happen. As you can see, they're under 1 minute now, so they need to pep step it a bit if they want to get into the site with adequate enough time to clear out the defenders, which is still going to be the full 5-man roster for DWG KIA.
All of them are moving their way back towards it. Even Coded's paying a bit of attention, but Wiggy says, don't worry, the Elder has this on the front door. The long corridor is where Foltz wants to find his next angle of entrance, but we just heard a little bit of utility start to be thrown. Pipes is the call, and Foltz finds himself a victim of Yas, who swings onto the soft wall, and suddenly they are entirely boxed in and locked off. A 5 versus 2, and they know exactly where they are. They at least find one back, and the spray is a little bit aggressive on the close quarters. Katsang is going to go for a slow creep round. They have an angle, and Skies has several different people he needs to try and find a fight with, but they decide to find it back. Bosco, through the smoke, goes for the first. There's a Jaeger, and there is a 2-2.
Risky play there from Bosco at the end, but what else were his options, unfortunately? And as we saw there, a little bit too of a one-dimensional push, ultimately, from SSG, just trying to pretty much send it down the main stairway as well as the Moto hatch and hoping that the split push through the main hallway as well as into Moto, out into church itself would have been enough. Clearly not, as DWG KIA was ready for every challenge in that final push, and they will easily claim a second round for themselves. Even better for them, they've unlocked CCTV and cash for play again, which they've already claimed earlier in this half, so they're going to go right back over to that.
CC was a curiosity I raised before, where Foltz crouch walked into the site and then through onto the other side. He suffered a bit of damage, but as you pointed out, it was a very reserved hold. It was open. That's a more fitting way than reserved. They locked 2 bodies on the top of red and the single C4 underneath. If that C4 was not there, the plant would have gone down. There was no other position for them to stop it. Obviously, SSG had been able to connect a kill on the top of rafters, so it was theirs to lock in. If SSG are aware of that and they go for that player first, suddenly that's an execute that turns entirely into their favor. DWG KIA, they probably know they can't rely on that single hold, so I'm curious to see what changes they might bring to the fray.
Absolutely right in saying that the round was an oddity as well. SSG are not going to get tripped up by an open site twice in a row here. They'll know about the off-site presence this time around here, and that's assuming that DWG KIA tried to bring out something similar, which they more than likely won't probably shift them back into a more standard hold. The interesting thing is they've actually brought Bandit into this play here, normally used to try and trick out this balcony wall, but as you guys at home that play Siege probably know, that's fallen out of the meta entirely as of the past year or so. It is only very rarely brought out, as we're seeing now with Woogieman.
There was a video that the EUL team did at one point during the season where even we were able to explain just how easy it is to open CC wall with standard bans. And if we can do it, the casters, and we can hit those shots, you know that the pro players have a very different approach. It's so dangerous and it's so risky, and all it takes is a body inside lounge or some pressure to potentially come across from the back window with cover on the hop outs. It can be structured. and the start is going to be here. They're going to play around Woogieman, who's just locked in, and Faults will get the read on the drone, as they're going to wait for some of the pressure to potentially start to hit. It's a juggle, it's a dance, and it's SSG picking up sticks and handing over to the opposing window to try and burn some ADSs and see if they can roll this in. The stun attempt goes through, hits the wrong wall, a stun is on the wrong way, and, well, that's why people don't really do that.
Pretty much the case. I was actually surprised he was going to actively trick it, because as we were talking about, it's so hard to do nowadays. You do see Bandit brought in occasionally just to kind of chuck the batteries down on Garage and use him that way at least to mitigate control, but still very, very rarely picked in, especially to actively try and move these batteries around. The good news is he can still be useful over towards the construction wall, which is going to be his main job now. Hold SSG out of that position, only allow them the one-dimensional push that they've had issues with in prior rounds.
One of the big problems, obviously, here is the way that they didn't even really try and dig themselves in. Without an ADS there, at least to burn, it was, sure, a cost of one blow of utility. They popped everything to get it open in the meantime, but they might have been able to catch something with a late play placed ADS if they knew that a bandit trick was their goal and their idea. Still, SSG, they've got what is, for a lot of teams, a standard step 1. Now they're working on the step 2 on the opposite side. The big important kill was Rafters. That really truly opens up any chance in a dream of a plant on site. The site and change here is Katsang. Doubled up underneath Rin to offer some presence back to anyone that might think they can get an early quick kill here.
Comes the attempts to work their way through. A lot of pressure being put onto that construction wall once again here, but the magnets as well as ADSs are going to hold part of it back. Problem is that frag grenade is going to be eaten up right in the middle of the entire ADS cluster, so once again they'll work their way in. That one successfully tricked out, however, from below. Beautifully done by Katsang assisting with that one, and the other impact thrown out by Yas here, but no! Yas is going to get fragged out himself, so another attempt from SSG soon to be made here. They're actually going to go for an audible. Moving Faults over, no! He catches Katsang for free, but can't follow it up on the Rin as he quickly exchanges it back out. SSG still have the player advantage, but could very well lose it here. And never mind, Rin himself is going to get lost as Skies barrels in to assist with the garage push. Bosco finding the second, only one more remains. It's Coded looking for a clutch yet again here. He's got the shotty at that long range as well. That's not going to do it here. And now he's got to contend against the plant, but won't even have a chance as Hot and Cold completes the loop and shuts him down.
Step for step, SSG was in the right place at the right time, even when things that they expected to sort of go their way, like the Faults push up onto the rafters, gifted the kill that was supposed to keep a keen eye, sure. That Valkyrie had already gone off and maybe expected someone to drop the hatch and try and hunt them. That's not really the game that you want to play at that moment in time, because you're falling into a firefight they expect. The push from Faults yet again, crouch walking his way into a position where he got the fight. Lost it, but then instantly, there's a trade round on the backside of Rin. They had that rotation in play. They had the split body, one outside the open CC wall, one on the close window. It was just perfect positioning from SSG, and they've guaranteed themselves an even attacking half and have massively improved on their last showing here versus DWG KIA.
SSG with some great adjustments when they ran into their pitfalls inside of that round. Specifically, when they realized construction wall wasn't going to happen due to the bandit batteries, they immediately moved players out of there. Instead of wasting an additional 20 to 30 seconds trying to make it happen, they make the call. This is not happening, guys. We need to go for garage. And it's that quick switch that gives them the extra pressure they need to barrel into the site and ultimately win that one out there in the trades. DWG KIA feel that they can correct those errors very quickly, though. We're going to come right back into it, including with the bandit yet again. So let's see if round 2 for DWG KIA is going to yield success to tie us up at what would be a 3-3 scoreline.
Okay, DWG, you want to come back to CC, and to be fair, it's been one apiece, but also, to be fair, SSG obviously learned lessons here. You tried to restructure some of the hold here, and you still have Katsang on the loose underneath. There's just a couple of moments and questions. The bandit's back. Are you going to give him something more to work with in terms of stopping Zofia having such an easy entrance? Are you going to put a bit more focus towards the hold that comes here? And, well, is Bosco now adding this width that's going to make any of that approach here dangerous? Because, as we said, there is several ways to open up that wall.
He just wants the top corner, so that explains why he shoots out the second one. If anyone's curious why he did that, you only need this as an angle for your gun. You don't need it as an angle for yourself. So the extra would only make it easier for members of DWG KIA to shoot out a player that would take it from SSG's side. SSG still working on, again, their initial positioning here as they're just going to be shooting out a couple of the barricades, opening it up, and then actually working on drone presence, as you can see. Bosco, till a moment ago there, and Hot and Cold, focusing heavily on that. Foltz, of course, working his way through the basement to get himself up to the top blue now. We'll take that control for himself, and that's already going to be a good staging ground for SSG to utilize here as they look around the area to see if any members of DWG KIA can be spotted out. Rin's can actually make a run of it, but no, he's put down by Foltz, and that's SSG getting the advantage at the beginning of the round yet again.
A very well-timed push here, and it falls away. Coated comes down, doesn't quite reveal it, and Yas cannot connect with Hot and Cold, who's able to upside down repel and drop the single player. The E1D bought them a second of time. And that paid off because they could reset themselves up to go for the trade and revenge. Okay, they've lost Foltz, but he's done his job. Found the first fight, lost the second, but they still have the body balance. They still have everything they need to try and pop open this wall, and, well, they still have a lot of time here. Bosco is getting that width that they need over construction as the short connector wall gets popped open. They're going to try and angle themselves to a similar direction as they did before. You can see Woogieman is picking up and trying to reconfigure the holds and make sure those bandit batteries are in the right place. They still have ADSs on a bit of a backline there towards the top of red, but we've seen just a sudden swing be all the end of DWG KIA. Is this width going to be another cost?
This is that adjustment that you were talking about needing to be made. They're adding the additional ADSs and nade resistance to make sure that the bandit play could continue to find its prominence. Interestingly enough, once again, SSG has had control of the lower area for some time, but they lost the most important operator to deal with that in their Zofia. They can't just lifeline out the floor below it anymore and take care of that, but what they can do is use frag grenades to accomplish it. Woogieman in a race with Skies right now. No! Another frag from Rampy! Shuts down Woogieman and shuts down the trick. That's going to open up construction, but they still don't have balcony yet, so they'll need that second facet, or once again have to try and brute force it through the CCTV window and the construction wall.
Kazang's in an uncomfortable situation. He doesn't know that no one's coming up behind him, so he's just going to wait for the call to go ahead and just point his gun forward. The E1D in a 15-second burn gets burst by Coated for a second of the round. There's suddenly a spray from the other side, and Rampy's going to see if he can stick it. Hot and Cold's going on a big run around to the bottom of red, but the close spray, and the Deagle gets one more. Coated for the lock-off. Hot and Cold cannot connect with both of them, and DWG KIA just hold on for an even half.
It's important to note, that's all they need to do inside of this game here. Even if they lose it in overtime, as long as they make it to that pivotal 6th round and can continue to trade back and forth with SSG, they will qualify for the playoffs. And it's a good thing, too, because as a quick update in terms of what's going on with the Empire game, once again, stream your stream, you don't want to know. Empire is still ahead, 5-1 versus Furia. And if they take that all the way to 7 and end it in regulation, DWG KIA needs to pick up at least 1 point from this game.
Furia are a team that often refuse to lose. As Tim put it, Ace of Pirate, he said, they often don't know that they've lost a game, and because of that, they will fight until the end. So, it is still on the cards for everybody, and Empire still has a game ahead of them, but here, DWG KIA are proving it for themselves. I still have questions about the double down on the bandit play. It's easy to shut down, and those little mistakes are costing them. Here now, obviously, they're going to see if they can put the pressure on. Last time, they were only able to find a single attack in regulation play, and they got to do much better than that, because so far SSG have stepped up their game massively.
It did end up working ultimately with the bandit plays. It managed to keep the balcony wall closed that time, but they had to commit all 3 ADSs to the drone hole to make sure that that would end up happening. So a little overkill on the support for it, but it got the job done, so ultimately works out there. And the good news is DWG KIA don't have to worry about their defensive side anymore, so can take a better look at that one later and decide if they want to continue doing so here on Clubhouse later in the tournament. For SSG, they're going to go right to gym and bedroom, which is not necessarily going to be the usual starting site for them. We'll bring quite a bit of that trap utility to hold it back, and they're also fans of bringing the Clash to this site, as we've seen quite a few other teams do in this tournament, as it's an immediate blockade on the elbow hallway here, which is usually going to be the first point the attackers try to take.
And Clash is often a very tricky question for teams that aren't used to coming up against it. It becomes a very juggled moment of time of, well, what do we bring to this? It might be something that they didn't quite expect to find in certain locations. It's a moving obstacle, and that is sometimes the biggest danger to a team that is full of pressure, full of questions and doubt, because as we saw earlier with a bit of unfortunate breakdancing in the bathroom, doubt leads to death in a lot of cases inside Siege. Here, it's all laser focused towards popping open Jacuzzi, which gets done very swiftly, but the real challenge is Bosco. Locked in with the swing, doesn't have the mirror, but still has audio, still has faults, and most importantly, still has a clash.
Going to see that first minute go away. As usual, not a lot of action contained inside of that minute. It's mainly an extra info gathering spot for our attackers, as well as a chance for them to open up some of the more obvious pieces of utility that they can deal with at the beginning of the round here. It's exactly what they'll do with that Jacuzzi balcony wall. Yas as well going to begin to open up some lines of sight and dodge a couple nitro cells as well. We'll see one chucked out there by Hot and Cold, trying to work his way out there and knock out Yas early in this round, but won't end up working out there. Sky similarly is going to get a bit of pressure sent on him from a frag grenade, but once more won't lead to a whole lot. That nice big shield is going to eat up the large majority of that damage.
There is a single SSG player that's sitting around lounge and waiting, because the more time that's wasted, the more powerful Rampy can be. So the slow creep towards CCTV comes together, and Yas might be the unsuspecting body caught out on the windows. It is a slowdown, and a slowdown is danger and death outside this window. That grenade's caught out, and Hot and Cold tries to get revenge. Rampy is still ready to swing out whenever he needs to, and Yas is concerned about that possibility. The decision, unfortunately, goes away from him, and now they find themselves still slowed. The smoke canisters pop perfectly, and this is that wall I talked about. Rin's gonna see if he can be the response here as the Zephyr goes for the pop-up, and Coated just drives in. The zaps come, and the clash goes. A great bait and play in the spray! Rin round the corner, you keep your cursor flat at head level, and you are gifted with results. Rampy tries to get some response, but they have the watch, and they have, importantly, the lead in their first attacking round.
And just walking himself into a couple kills there at the end there as he carries forward into Logi and refuses to stop. It's DWG KIA carve their way without too much of an issue, especially after taking down the clash here for Rin into this gym site and take solid control over the opening attacking round. 2 more is all they need, and they will have a playoff spot confirmed, irregardless of the outcome of the Empire game.
Church and Arsenal, and by the sounds of it, by the sounds of Desonace on the other stream, via our ears. There's a pause for spoilers. It sounds like the game is over, and the only team that could have won it in that time, I assume, are the Russians, who have probably very swiftly left the stage to open up twitch.tv/Rainbow6 and to keep a keen eye on this. DWG KIA's possibility at taking the last spot. 2 rounds, 2 attempts for them to lock it in. SSG, they need 4 to confirm Team Empire.
If Empire has had a chance to tune in yet, they're going to be shaking if they saw the end of that last round there. That was a statement from DWG KIA and how they approached the ending moments of that attack. But it was also on the gym site, which is not necessarily a mainstay for SSG. It's one of their 3, don't get me wrong, but it's usually the 3rd they will go to. So now back on more familiar territory for them as they go down into the basement, where they are going to commit themselves to an extended roam here, as we can see Hot and Cold upstairs, Rampy joining him as well. So they're going to try a little bit of tomfoolery inside of this first minute or so to see if they can get any early picks against DWG KIA, and ultimately, of course, trying to waste time as well.
Yas is trying to get quick into the fight potential here with that roaming vigil. It's obviously the connection. The point and Fault can pull back if they want to and need to. You're looking to try and minimize and shepherd at first, and they're looking to waste as much time as possible. It was for a long time a bit of a steady stock in hold with a single roamer, but then a certain team decided to try and extend that, and that became a little bit more of a given. Kasang is given a bit of pain as they're popped and pre-fired out from a bit of a swing round, and they're giving it a little bit of food for thought. But in that, they're sort of trying to call attention. They're saying our presence and pressure is coming down towards the site. You gotta move. They're hoping mistakes happen, and mistakes might lead to players being dropped.
Rampy ready for an aggressive swing if he's given the opportunity to do so. He's going to block off the rotate with a Goo Mine, but no! The shots ring in from Coated instead as he catches that Goo Mine. Toss it! Oh! He's ready for a second one as well! Hot and Cold tries to get revenge, but instead he's made the situation that much worse. Rin as well follows it up with one more as he's also cleaning up the aggressive play from the main stairs. SSG have fallen to pieces, and DWG KIA haven't even touched the basement yet.
Well, Bosco and Skies are all that is left down on the basement. There are open holds, and they're going to see if they can step up some of the pressure. DWG KIA, the pressure they have is, can they make sure they connect? They have been good at those do-or-die debonair pushes that they've often thrown into the final 30 seconds of a round, and here is one where they still have some structural work to do first. There is a bit of an opening, a bit of an extension, and a bit of a prodding, and all the two remaining SSG players can do right now is sit and wait, and maybe move away from destructible ground as you're scanned out by a Jackal.
Jackal going to make things a little bit more difficult here for SSG as they try to maintain some type of positioning in this final minute. And that's the big reminder. There's still a minute left for DWG KIA to clear these two players out. That is infinity in Siege terms here. So all they have to do is properly utilize that time bank to fish out the last two members of SSG. We've seen this get messed up in the past, however. SSG are not out of it yet. They're in the basement after all. Skies flirting with a possible push out to blue, but decides it's too risky given that the hatch has already been opened. Yas knows he's here, but he's hesitant to move forward here. DWG KIA can't fool themselves. They can't get nervous in this situation. It needs to be commitment, otherwise SSG can come back in these final seconds. Bosco with the first, but he's been exchanged, and now Skies getting caught in the mid-hallway. Katsang does go down to team damage here, so Skies is not out of it just yet, but finally cut off by Rin, moving in from blue.
One more round. DWG KIA, maybe the second Korean team that we will see in the playoff stage. They entered with a tour de force on the first day. They topped a group of death that nobody was sure to expect. And from seeing them play recently in league play, they weren't as strong as they'd been recently. They weren't one of the finalists in the Korean Open in the local setup. Neither them nor Sandbox were competitors. Korean Uprising? Maybe. But for now, as I said, one more round.
We do have it confirmed now. Empire topping out their game. They are the winner of it outright in regulation. So it's now a necessity for DWG KIA to pick up that final round. Otherwise, they will be eliminated if SSG can run the complete gauntlet at this point. But they now need 4 rounds in a row to stop DWG KIA from claiming that spot, which would allow Empire through. Let's see if SSG can get it done and save the Russians here today.
SSG, as you said, it's got to be a suey. It's not really the big weight on them, and that's the fair thing. Probably the frustrating thing for Empire fans right now is, sure, SSG are playing a game, and they're playing a win. Everybody is, and as we saw, the opening half from SSG was way better than the first time these two teams hit. Maybe that lack of intense pressure that was on that first game is part of that. They've been playing so confidently. Here, though, things haven't quite been as sharp. They're suddenly being struck by a laser-focused DWG KIA. The intel, the destruction, and the possibility being driven through them is a little bit too hot for them to handle as of this moment, but it does not mean that they are not able to step it back up and replicate some of their work in the first half.
SSG is definitely a team that would pull no punches, in my opinion, inside of this matchup. They know that Empire's relying on this match. They know that if they kind of just lackadaisically went about this game, that wouldn't be too sportsmanlike to Empire, so they're going to give it their all. That doesn't mean necessarily they're going to bring out new strats or anything for this one. They're going to be logical about it at the end of the day, but they'll at least give it their all, give it their best effort here to try and stop DWG KIA from going forward and potentially to allow Empire to move through. Speaking of DWG KIA here, making quick work of the Jacuzzi balcony. Not much resistance being put up on it by the defense, just a simple mute jammer, which we all know those are going to be very easy to get past nowadays anyway. So handled within the first minute, but they've got a lot more to get intel on before DWG KIA can have the confidence to move forward.
A major change here is obviously the adaptation for more free play around the map. They've tried to claim a little bit extra this time. Without the clash, they've doubled down on the Valkyrie. They have a lockdown here to hope Skies can keep this box entirely under their favor, and they're going to keep the angles and the pressure. DWG KIA are trying to see what they can find. The first thing, trouble. CC window's been punched. They knew there was a presence there before, but they might not know that this time it's got a lot more support. They've set themselves up in a massive firing line. SSG deep into the gym site. They're sort of saying, go on, take it, and Coded says, okay, let's go for it. They're going to deep dive to the close wall. They can't quite get the angle, the clash, and the castle even has popped open one apiece. And Skies is still in position, but the diffuser, it is now isolated, and Yas is now in sight, a double, as he absolutely floods his way through. Hot and Cold has to tear down a very noisy door and take a very long reach with Rampy there too. They're looking for the pings. They're finding the C4, and it connects. A 2 versus 3 now, and it is visible, but they pick it back up. Give themselves a little bit more time, and Yas is going to see if they can get it stuck. Another C4. That one connects too. Space Station living up to their alias and making sure everything is blown up above them to the stars. The third attempt. And there is no more C4s. There is ping. A little bit further back. Not quite connected, and it's a post plant. More than enough to make sure they're suddenly in a 2 versus 2, but Hot and Cold and Rampy are doing everything to bring it back. Rin creeps the wrong side, but catches it. Now it is Rampy that is all the hopes of the Russians. They are watching fervently to see if they can stop these 2 remaining Korean players in a post-plant Overwatch. Would not be the first big clutch, would be maybe the biggest for some players here, but it does not happen. DWG KIA are in the playoffs.
DWG KIA locked and secured as our final playoff team from this group. The rest of the rounds do not matter. The victory from Empire does not matter. It is DWG KIA as we are going to be welcoming everyone from the base stream to the broadcast. Now, you just missed the pivotal moment. Hopefully it caught the end of this round, but that seals it, ladies and gentlemen. The rest of these rounds do not matter at this point. DWG KIA are through as we are going to see a tactical pause taken from SSG.
Commiserations to the Russians. Unfortunately, although you did everything you can on this final day to try to find your way into the playoffs, DWG KIA, they did just enough to pip that post and get themselves over the line from their surprise rise to a lot of people at the beginning of this to where they sit now. SSG have fought valiantly though. It was a 3-3-half, a rarity, and a massive improvement on their attacks versus DWG KIA, where previously on the Showdown on Club, they were only able to get one. SSG are going hard. But DWG KIA are going harder. Their attacks have stepped up so much. They are sharp, they're explosive, they are confident. They knew what they wanted from this game, and they've got it. But they are not stopping, as SSG did not. Both teams want this win. As you see in the top, DWG KIA currently sit first in the group, and SSG have fallen to second with this score.
DWG KIA locked and secured for the playoffs here. Some mistakes made in the first half with their defense, and certainly some questionable decisions made in their overall strategy. But as you mentioned, they come in with fire and brimstone in this second half to secure that 6th round outright with a consecutive 3-round run. Technically 4 if you want to count the last round from the end of the first half as well there. Still a game to be played here, though, and like I said, SSG is not a team that's going to pull any punches in this situation. Going for the tactical pause there. This is now practice for what could be a match later on in the tournament for them, as they're also, of course, secured for the playoffs.
SSG, what can the tac timeout bring you now? And DWG KIA, can you lock this off? Your attacks have been bold, and I think that's one of the things that's catching SSG a little bit off guard. The last showdown, it was a bit cautious from DWG KIA, and to be fair, they said the same of SSG's attacks, and what they brought here today was confidence. But I don't think they quite expected the same to match them. They've obviously done their homework on each other. They're obviously bringing the fight both teams, and you're wondering what that conversation was for SSG. How do they think they can start to pull some of that DWG KIA approach that has just been so sharp and so aggressive?
Excellent stuff coming out from them so far. Now only one more round is needed to truly seal the deal here. You can see more live rankings as well. If DWG KIA are able to successfully end this inside of regulation, not only will they secure themselves a spot in the playoffs through 2nd place, but they will also dethrone SSG from 1st in the group and take it for themselves, which will affect our eventual playoff bracket, which I think we're hopefully going to get to take a look at later today or later tonight, possibly.
So Fultz is trying to be the first bit of pressure here. Around the bottom of blue, escapes Adam Stairs to see if they can give themselves a little bit more of a stretch. Rampy has some support and a lot of ADSs to catch any of the damage, and the difference here from the last time we were on this site is SSG's fallen back towards the site. They're not extending across the multiple floors. They lost 2 players within about a blink of an eye at the top floor, and then 5 seconds later lost their connecting player at the bottom of the main stairs as well. DWG KIA knew where they wanted to strike, and again, that aggression, that pace has been sort of taking SSG a bit by surprise. So instead they're saying, okay, we're going to give you a little bit more ground, but we're also going to be much more prepared for you. Bunkered in, locked down, guns and eyes angled towards your hold and your approach. What can you do if we know you're coming?
That boom in the background is going to be Dirt Tunnel opened up here. Bosco gets a quick bit of intel that there is going to be some presence already established from DWK. Back down at the bottom of the main stairs. Rin realizes that as well and realizes that he might be tricked out if he continues to play from that position. So we'll rotate away from it and decide to push in somewhere else, more than likely joining the blue pressure. That'll be grouping up in a moment here. DWG KIA starting to flash spam down through the blue hash here to burn out the ADSs and additional utility. Rampy realizes this could be the precursor to a very early push. You can see from our timer, we still have well over a minute remaining. So he is going to get prepared for that by taking up position against the wall, just in case DWG KIA want to go for it. It seems like that may very well be the case here as they're inching their way down to the bottom of blue, and we can see Katsang doing the same at main stairs.
The ADSs are likely to come back to life very soon. They know they've got to follow this up, and Yas probably regrets holding a grenade at that moment in time as Bosco locks one off. Yas suffers quite a lot, and Rin just deep dives through a smoke. Still in it, and it's just escapes. They had a moment where they sort of took a double peek, like, I could go for seconds. No, maybe I'm full. Oh, now I am definitely done. They're locked out, and they're at least able to find one more and keep the balance in their favor here, SSG. More grenades. More attempts at catching these players, but SSG aren't handing any territory over. Still, these sort of mad dash charges, we've seen them be punished for before, and DWG KIA aren't quite in the same positions they were previously. The play and the pull back into the site has worked. In the final 20 seconds, it's now down to a confrontation. The damage he took from the canister was being hit by it, but he's able to lead himself into sight. However, there's one more to quickly follow up from an opener. There's the trade, though, and the diffuser needs to be put down on the ground. Coated thinks he's found a safe corner and needs a bit of support there. It's Woogie Man that locks it off. They need to look to the ground. No! DWG KIA hold F.
Woogie Man had the opportunity there, but I think the animation needs that little bit of build-up before it technically counts when you're at the 0 timer, so we had to start it just a little bit sooner than that to be able to make it work. Does not get it done in time, and SSG's last player makes a smart call, tucks in behind the corner, lets that timer run out, and so SSG will live to fight another round here as the scoreline goes 4-6 here. Remember, SSG still potentially fighting for top 1 placement inside of this one if they can come out with the win in overtime now.
2 more opportunities here for them, as you said, to pull it back to OT and put a bit of a fight in. That was scrappy, but it was better from SSG, and better can get better and better and better, especially after a tech timeout, especially after a conversation where you get all the team back on the same page and start to have a realization and actualization of what is going on. Nobody has a better perspective on this than Lycan, the man behind the team that's pacing back and forth and giving the intel. If you are somehow here at this titular moment at the final day of groups on the final map between the final 2 teams, well, they're only allowed to talk to the team once, and that is the moment. So all of that he's witnessed over the 3 rounds they'd suffered, he can break it down and think where he might be able to pull it together, but then it's up to the 5 players to, well, tune into the game, tune into a round, and now see if they can tune into improving it.
Pivotal switch on the operator selection there from DWG KIA as well. There's plenty of soft breach being brought up until this point, and that still remains the same, but it's been doubled down upon as Yas now switching over to the Flores to potentially try and deal with some of this insight utility a little bit more easily, as they have had a little bumps in the road doing so, as we saw just on that last round right there, trying to bleed it all out and ultimately running out of time as they were forced into the site in a very close skirmish. DWG KIA bringing Flores to the party here is going to make that a whole lot easier by sneaking those Rotero drones in and knocking out a whole bunch of it.
Well, Yas, what can you bring with those Roteros? And that's the part about Yas here, is he's always been consistent. And the fact that he's about even on a KD, and he's had a moment or 2 where he's driven into a round, especially on the gym bedroom that was so important, where he's suddenly in sight with a triple kill. But still, he hasn't quite been able to dig into this game with the same pace and panache that he's otherwise had. However, Rin and Coated have massively stepped up into this game. They have been absolute behemoths today with big performances, and they just need one more to lock off this first place, as we've pointed out many times. The break on CC, the push coming towards the bottom of the rafters. It's setting itself up for default, but as we said many times on their whole, default is breakable.
Absolutely the case here. DWG KIA, as a quick reminder again, just need this one singular round to close it out. And they have already had a large amount of success on these upstairs sites here. Rotero drone going to try and take care of that camera tucked away in the corner. Might have done the job, but also might have gotten away with it. The shelf might have actually saved the day on that one. Hot and Cold as well, watching over the window, will deny one of those Rotero drones, but 3 others besides that still potentially to be used, as we saw the first one go off already. Yas going to sneak this one in a little bit more directly, and that one will connect this time on onto the deployable shield. So there goes the additional reinforcement for SSG here, and a little bit of damage onto Rampy also. The last one, I believe, is going to get shot away, however, so that will finally end. Actually, never mind. Yas still has the capability to bring one more out here, so still going to try and throw this in later in the round.
Sky's a sliver from death, and that reverse grenade fishing was almost the cost. That sure was. Bosco gone off to Coated, who's able to open up one more. The thermite charges his way through, and Fultz is going to have to charge his way back to site. But Yas is on the prowl. There's a couple of holes in that as a bit of a watch potential as well, which means Fultz is going to have to be a little bit more cautious. Woogieman is going for his creep up here onto the rafter stairs. They have control in 50 seconds. It screams their way past and drops all the dangers on the way, but it's also making the execute count, and the push is about to come to shove.
Katsang working his way in here along with Yas. SSG falling to pieces as just Fultz and Houghton remain. Fultz off the site as well, and Katsang quickly takes care of the only other piece of resistance, and why not get the last one as well? DWG KIA comes out on top in regulation in their final game of the group, and that will not only lock them in for the playoffs, but it also locks them in for first place in the group.
A rocky road from what was a fantastic lead-in, but at the end of it, DWG KIA, there is relief for a day before you find yourself once again toe-to-toe with all the teams that have made it out of groups. I'm sure later on there'll be great graphics to break all of this down, but for now, congratulations, DWG KIA, the second team from Korea. More magic tricks. They can't quite make it work. Rin has just demonstrated the floor. Maybe they can work on that before the main set. I mean, Katsang, you've earned it. Congratulations.
Absolutely. Big congratulations indeed. They're falling just a little bit short in Mexico, but making up for it in dividends here in Sweden. They will earn a spot in the top 8 now, moving forward into our playoff stage. Quite literally, our brand new stage will be showing off soon. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it, at least for me, here at the Major. It's been a pleasure bringing you these broadcasts. It's been a pleasure to work with so many of these great casters, such as yourself,
It's
Fluke.
been amazing. Thank you for the long journey all the way over and blessing us with your Americanisms like can opener for some of the utility. It's been fantastic. The whole 3 days has been an absolute blast. And it's only just getting started.
Absolutely the case, ladies and gentlemen. The playoffs are starting, so stick with us here. We're going to go to a short break, and when we do come back, we'll have the analysts ready to break it down and close out the day.
What does it take to create the future of a gaming community? Join us on this 4th episode of I Call Next as we discover how to level up gameplay and reset the expectations of an entire league. PayPal. Press play.
Easy going right there. One more to go.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the analyst desk. And it's done. DWG KIA are good to go. They get the extra point that they needed, and they make it 3. It's a lot of them.
3 points. But more importantly, a place in the playoffs. Our condolences go out to Team Empire, however.
It breaks all of our... I mean,
and the other 7 teams eliminated today, of course.
Yes, we of course have kind of broken hearts through this, because no matter what, we wanted either one of the teams, best case scenario, DWG KIA and Empire, to go through. That's just because of the EU and APAC North kind of, I guess, bias that we have, because it's our region, we cast them, and that's how it goes. But SSG definitely proved that they are the best NA team. It seems like that's not too difficult to prove right now, but they're also the torch carriers through. DWG KIA proved to be a pretty tough opponent here for SSG.
I was really worried. I was really worried about SSG and DWG KIA. DWG KIA specifically running it back against SSG, going back against them on Clubhouse. But they didn't do worse, they did better. And fair play to SSG, they got a very good attacking half. They got a 3-3 attacking half. DWG KIA, once it got to halftime, they just came out and they attacked so super well. Even that last round, the one that confirmed, not the last round of the game, the one that confirmed DWG KIA into the playoffs with the C4s and the information.
Yeah, oh my god.
It was so tense. And SSG, you know, they gave it their best as well.
And honestly, we got a really good show, because not gonna lie, hearing 2 play-by-plays in Blue and M, casting this and giving all the action, you know, kind of the shouting that it deserves, even though it is a group stage game and you kind of have to pace yourself anyways, because you're working throughout the event. It really added that extra layer that made me enjoy the game a bit more. Who would have thought commentators that are good at their jobs actually make you enjoy the action more than it would be for it's just the action on its own.
Yeah, there was just so much of it as well. So many big moments, and
those nitros.
Yeah.
First
it
one,
was just cat and mouse.
And it was so close. But here's our match summary between DWG KIA and Spacestation Gaming. Coated is goated, as Ace would be saying. 13-5. Rin at 11-6. I mean, all of this is happening whilst Yas is kind of bottom fragging, and even then, he's on equal terms, if not even better, than the second-rated player on SSG. That's impressive.
It's just an impressive performance all round from DWG KIA Gaming. I worry slightly about them going into playoffs. I worry about their map pool, but the maps they are good at, they are exceptionally good at. And if you can get through on those maps, you can take a beating on the maps you're not going to play once you get to best of 3s, but just win the 2 maps that you do play.
The question is, how much have DWG KIA learned from their experience so far and getting this? Because getting to this event for DWG KIA was a tough ride. They did not do well in stage 3.
No, they didn't. They started off really poorly as well.
Barely enough in the top 4 to make it through into the APAC qualifiers that has all of these teams from so many different regions within APAC as a whole, and then somehow snuck through the bottom bracket.
Snuck through? They went through the lower bracket of the APAC
Chiefs
playoffs as well.
We're at the top. Elevate lost to Chiefs and then lost
to DWG KIA.
It feels bad now but Elevate will be at Invitational. Regardless, here's a recap of the groups and how it all look like. Our standings, the groups A, B, C, and D. Top 2 teams, they're off in the playoffs, and we'll be seeing them back again on Friday for the quarterfinals. Face Clan and Rogue at 15 points to 11. 7 points for Chiefs and Oxygen, of course, who pack up and go home. Team 1 at 12. Sandbox at 9. And even though Vitality got 9 points of their own, Sandbox beat them and have the head-to-head advantage against them overall here in the tournament, which means that Sandbox are through. So now that makes between A and B 2 LATAM teams, an EU team, and an APAC team, with, of course, Dark Zero going home with 6 points that they're able to collect. That's a B, but what does B and C and D look like? There's so many of them, right?
C, Group C, Ninjas in Pajamas, Team BDS, the 2 by far and away best teams in that group. It's night and day difference. 15 points for Ninjas in Pajamas, 14 for Team BDS, a low 4 for Sonics, even lower 3 for Invictus, but they did get a win on the final day, so they've got something to take back with them. going through to Group D, as we've just seen, DWG KIA, they take that #1 seed due to getting the regulation victory in the end over Space Station. Space Station, of course, were already confirmed, 11 points. Then you've got Team Empire on 9, unfortunately missing out. Their day 1 form was just not good enough.
Yeah.
And Furia, who gave everybody a good fight, but ultimately just couldn't get over the line against basically anybody.
And I think the overall idea here is, if you're C&D, at least you know that you only play against teams from A and B. We'll talk about that a bit later once we get to the draw section. But predictions, what did they look like for everybody here? Come on, bring that graphic up. It is the graphic of shame. I put in mine and blue as well this morning. It was like just minutes before the game started. But what we had is, here it is. Team 1, NIP, Dark Zero, FaZe, and DWG KIA for Intero. Not too bad. Only 3 games that he was not able to predict. Pengu 4 out. Ace. Only Rogue and SSG kind of snuck through there. For everybody kind of voted in for Rogue, so understandable. That's a minimum. Jess, same. Only 2. And 2 for
Stein and Em have had a rough day.
3 for Fluke. And Hap. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, Hap has had a very bad day there, yeah.
Hap, you might want to reconsider. I mean, he's a caster.
He gets the break.
It's okay. As a caster, you know, this sort of stuff, it's fine. It can pass. It's all right.
And there's a lot of teams at this tournament as well. There is a lot of... I don't know how many times I've said it. 48 really best of ones over 3 days. You can't predict everything.
I again wonder how many matches did you guys watch at home? That is something that I would love to hear. So let us know in chat and let us know on socials. Hashtag 6Major. It will pop up some of your tweets, your posts on the screen.